I wonder how many guys this Valentine's Day are going to give power tools to their wives. I think the problem is compounded by the fact that tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday, so testosterone is at an all-time high. And I think there's going to be a big temptation to give NFL memorabilia to our significant others on Valentine's Day. And if you're that stupid, don't do it. Of course, if your significant other, if your spouse, if your wife or girlfriend is a huge NFL fan, okay, that's different. But by and large, at least I know that would not fly with my wife. I would get that memorabilia shoved right down my throat. That's a mistake we often make. And I think as followers of Jesus, it's a mistake we don't want to make. You see, if we want the principle behind it, if we want to give a gift to somebody else and show them love, we have to do that in a way that they receive love, not in the way that we receive love. It's about them, it's not about us. And I think as Christians, we make this similar mistake quite often. We're insensitive, and our relationship with Jesus and with God is more about us than it is about him. And I'm sure when we're young and when we're immature, like if my child comes and gives me a drawing that, is meaningful to them, but is not a work of art, it's just a scratch on a piece of paper, my heart is going to melt because that's who they are. But when they grow up and we're older and we're mature, we're in a different phase. And it's not about us, it's about the person we're giving a gift to. But to do that, we have to learn what the other person likes and what pleases them. And I'm afraid that often we fall short in this area. So I've been reflecting on this for my own life and others. And I was reading in this kind of light in the 25th chapter of Matthew. This is the last recorded parable that Jesus shares publicly. This is just before his death. Um, and in this parable, it's about a king and the final judgment, and you have sheep and you have goats. And the king is separating them out, and the sheep are the ones that were truly followers and did the right thing, and the goats were the ones that were just faking it and didn't do the right thing, never got it. And it's interesting that the criteria he gives is so often not the criteria that we think of what it means to be a good Christian. He doesn't say, well, you secretly, uh, you didn't drink, you didn't smoke, you followed all these legalistic rules. Thank you. I'm so pleased with you. Oh, you guys were such good. You're so good at dotting the T's and crossing your I's. And hey, you really enforce these rules on others. Or you went to church faithfully. You were always there. There's all these, or you had the right doctrinal statement. All those other groups were screwed up, but you really understood down to the nuance the proper doctrinal statement. All those things he could have used to sort them out, he didn't care about. They were like power tools to your wife. I don't give a rip about that. I don't like making stuff. I don't care about the NFL. I don't want a football on Valentine's Day. Instead, he said, this is how you really please me. And it's interesting, both groups were surprised. They go, when did we ever give you flowers and chocolates? We didn't do that. We didn't know we were expressing our love to you. He says, you have no idea. Every time you did it for the least of these, when you visited the inmates in prison, when you took care of the orphans and the widows, it was like you were doing it just to me. And I felt your love for me. Come on in. I want to hang out with you. Let's spend eternity together. And then the other group he rebuked, and I go, well, what are you talking about? We never ignored you. You were never hungry, and we didn't feed you. Jesus, we love you so much. If you had been hungry, we would have fed you. If you had been hurt, we would have take care of your wounds. And he says, no, you wanted of. My love was not in you. And you proved it by your actions because you didn't care for the least of these. You didn't visit the prisons. You didn't care for the widows. You didn't care for the orphans. In other words, your religion was all about yourself. It was never about me. Depart from me. I don't want anything to do with you. That's what I'm reflecting on. And if you've been listening to this podcast, thank you. And if you're on YouTube, you can hit subscribe. You can, get notifications, all that cool stuff. There's also lots of other amazing videos you want to listen or watch to. And if you're listening on Alexa, as soon as this is over, we'll go back to the pre-recorded content. But I want to just end this with a prayer. And this prayer is for myself and for all of us listening. Lord, I pray that you help us be true followers of you and to express our love for you in ways that touch you. And you are not concerned about all the things that we attach to religion so often. You're not concerned about the quantity of our gifts and the magnitude of them. What you want us is to have a heart of compassion and to reach out and care for the least of these. Lord, help us to be more sensitive to those we don't see, to the widows, to the orphans, to those who are in prison, to care for the less fortunate and those who need your love. Lord, open up our hearts that we won't have an us versus them mentality where they're the other, not important, by and large ignored, or our opponents. Instead, that we'll have your heart of compassion and we'll express our love for you by expressing our love